In the 69th episode of the A.S.A.P Tech News, we talk about the latest AMD graphics card drivers. EVGA has a new Z690 classified motherboard, Thermalright launches a small all-white CPU cooler, and MSI has a new gaming keyboard. We start with AMD and the Radeon Adrenalin 22.1.2. This driver adds support for the new Tom Clancy Rainbow Six extraction video game and several graphics cards, which includes the RX 6500 XT, RX 6500M, RX 6400 and RX 6300M. In terms of fixed issues, this driver addresses the longer than usual loading times while playing Borderlands 3 in DirectX 12 mode with Radeon Boost enabled, and that's it. And unfortunately, there are some known issues left still standing as well, such as enhanced sync might cause a black screen to occur when enabled on some games and system configurations. And Radeon performance metrics and logging features may randomly report extremely high and incorrect memory clock values. And that's it for this driver release. The driver itself is already available for download on the AMD driver website, and it is compatible with all modern Radeon graphics cards. We continue with EVGA and their new Z690 classified motherboard, a motherboard that has an MSRP of just $629.99 US. This model has a 19-phase digital VRM for the CPU power delivery, twin fans with VRM full cover heatsinks, a PCIe Gen 4 M.2 key M slot, a USB BIOS update port, proper VRM heatsinks with fins in them, and native PCIe Gen 5x16 slots, among other things. Speaking of SSDs and cooling, both MDT sockets are covered by a beefy heatsink, which features cooling fins placed on the top side. Fortunately, this heatsink is not attached to the chipset heatsink, and thus it can be easily removed. The Z690 classified can use DDR5 RAM, which is rated for over 6400 MHz and more. It will depend a lot on the memory controller of the CPU and the quality of the memory chips inside your RAM kit to achieve such high frequency. In addition to a beefy VRM setup, this motherboard has a dual multifunction post indicator. These are great for not only diagnosing issues with the system, but also for monitoring of the temperature and voltages of the CPU or the memory. Next, Thermalright has a new small form factor CPU cooler, the TA120EX Mini White. This CPU cooler is designed to work with small form factor systems and mini ITX motherboards. The TA120EX Mini White uses a single 120mm fan and has a maximum height of 145mm. The heatsink has a single tower design and uses 5 copper-made heat pipes and no less than 42 aluminum-made cooling fins. Fortunately, unlike other CPU coolers, the TA120EX Mini White has a solid nickel-plated copper base plate, which makes the contact with the heat pipes around the rear part. The before-mentioned fan has a maximum speed of 1850 RPM and uses a fluid dynamic bearing system. The TA120EX Mini White CPU cooler has another feature going for it. It is completely white. This includes the heat pipes, cooling fins, the fan and fan rotor. A rare thing these days when a lot of CPU coolers are only half white or at best have white features sprinkled on the top of a regular CPU cooler design. The TA120EX Mini White is compatible with all new CPU sockets, including the Intel LGA1700, LGA1200 and the AMD AM4. Unfortunately, the pricing is not yet available. And finally, MSI has a new gaming keyboard, the Vigor GK71 Sonic. This keyboard uses the MSI Sonic Red 45-gram linear switches and a lot of RGB LEDs. The Vigor GK71 Sonic has an integrated volume knob that will adjust the volume for the entire system or for select applications. Speaking of the mechanical switches, the MSI Sonic Red switches have a pre-travel of 1.9mm and a total travel of 40mm, with the before mentioned 35 grams of actuation force. In addition, the keyboard has a detachable memory foam wrist rest that will certainly increase the comfort of the user. Starting February of this year, the keyboard will be available for purchase for no less than $120 US. And this is the end of the episode number 69 of the A.S.A.P Tech News, one of the few tech news series which aims to deliver you the news as fast as possible for your convenience.